Hi there, everybody. We are now live on all three channels, and I love doing this. I love that we can kind of stream together. Facebook, hello, everybody on Facebook, hello, YouTube, and hello to all my followers on Instagram. It is Sunday night live with me, Dr. Taz, where we just try to break down what's happened during the week and we try to prep for the week ahead. And I bet for many of you, the week ahead is all about maybe some summer travel. I don't know if any of you have travel plans. Well, if you're like me, everything's been a bit disrupted because, again, we are having talks of different areas, different counties, and different states shutting down or having stay at home orders or shelter in place orders. So it's like, but let's get into it. It's Sunday Night Live with me, Dr. Taz. I hope you're doing well no matter where you are. And we have people from all around the world joining us tonight. So hello to everybody. If you think about it, introduce yourself. Let us know where you are. And it's just fun to continue to build this community. So I like to start with a quote. Here's our quote for today. It's not the absence of fear. All right, really important for the times we're living in. It's not the absence of fear. It's overcoming it. Sometimes you've just got to blast through and have faith. How are we doing when it comes to faith right now? I know that even I am tested from time to time, like looking for all this to go away and end, and sometimes it doesn't. But I think we have to keep this in our hearts and minds that it's not the absence of fear, it's overcoming it. And we as a community, as a family, as a human race, we will overcome the challenges that we're facing right now, which are two pandemics, COVID and racism. And I feel like it's given the day, we're talking about one more than the other, but we're back and forth, back and forth. All right, we've got a lot of people saying hello. The topic tonight is going to be COVID and COVID updates, along with getting you guys ready for summer travel. I have people saying hello from Sydney. Hi there. Hope you guys are doing well. Good to see you as well. And we've got some people from Mexico as well. So welcome. And again, lots of people from right here in the United States. All right, someone from Buffalo, New York. Hello, Buffalo. Continue to shout out where you are. I think it's so fun for all of you to know where you're coming in from. So let us know where you're from and who you are. And if you have questions, please post them as I hit the information. All right, we're going to talk about COVID first. Unfortunately, I wish I could quit talking about COVID, but COVID is having a little bit of a second wave. It is very confusing information because we're seeing the second wave. We're seeing, in fact, one of the first headlines I have for you guys tonight is that Texas, this is from Yahoo, Texas could be facing a humanitarian catastrophe because I think what they're saying is that their hospitals are starting to fill back up. So it's a little bit concerning, right? What is going on all over again? We thought we had this under control, but obviously we don't. So here is the challenge, guys. We know that COVID cases are going to go up, right? COVID cases are going to go up. We're out there, we're mingling. We just had protests where everybody was out on the streets in almost every major city. So we know that we're going to continue to have issues with cases going up. So we know that that is a problem for sure. However, the other thing to keep in mind is that the reason the quarantine went into effect and the reason that there was a shutdown was to let the hospital system get prepared. And as somebody recently told me, the hospital systems are prepared. In fact, they're underwhelmed. We have a lot of hospital systems that are actually close to declaring bankruptcy. So we've got to take the information. I feel like the most frustrating thing right now is that the information is polarized. It's either, okay, fear and doom and gloom and everyone's getting sick and everything's coming to an end, or it's like there's nothing happening. And honestly, the truth is really in the middle. So here is sort of what you need to remember as you're sifting through the news and as we go through some of these headlines in just a second. First of all, that the caseload will go up. We are testing more. We are out and about more. We are mingling. Oh my gosh, I have somebody from Africa. Hello from Africa. I'm sorry, got distracted there. I was so shocked to see that. Hello from Africa as well. But anyhow, we're testing more. So you are going to see the caseload go up. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is that we're not observing precautions. So we should be using masks. I know a lot of people are anti-mask and they're anti-getting out there. Even within our practice, we've had some comments that they don't want to come until we quit making people wear masks. But again, until we have a better handle on this particular virus and what it is doing and how it's spread and how contagious it is, I think masks are something we all need to do. So keep that in mind. Let's continue to wear masks. And I think when we're out in public, out and about, out in places where we don't know who might be there, I think wearing masks continue to be something that can help us all. So That's a yes. I think hand washing continues to be a yes. And the other part now is travel, because so many of us, myself included, had travel plans. And we're kind of scratching our heads now, thinking, do we really want to do that? Especially when it's to places like California, where they're starting to have an increasing number of cases and starting to shut down again. So here's what I suggest about travel. This is exactly what I'm doing. And that's the reason I wanted to talk about this tonight. I know this has affected so many of you, and you guys have been reaching out to me asking, what do we do about travel? Well, first of all, I think you have to really understand where you're going. For example, I can give you my story in particular. We were headed to California towards the end of the month. We have gone ahead and shifted that, unfortunately, because we just don't know what's going to happen. So we are thinking more, we're just going to wing it and wait till the very last moment to make any definitive travel plans. If you are in New York City, I had somebody on here from New York saying they were concerned about traveling to and from New York. If you are from New York City or going to New York, remember there are those 10 states. There are 10 different states that if you travel into New York City from those 10 states, and I listed them earlier, then you will be quarantined for 14 days. It's self-quarantine for 14 days. New York has had a tough time with the virus, as we all know. So it's important for all of us to pay attention to that as well. So keep in mind that where you go matters. So check the restrictions for any of the places that you may have planned to go. Texas should probably be off your list right now. California looks like it's questionable. And then some of the other cities or states, as their cases are going up, may make some decisions as well. So it's a minute to minute sort of conversation, and you're going to have to just kind of stay and keep looking at the places where you have decided to travel. How many of you are wearing masks? I'm curious if you guys are wearing masks or you feel uncomfortable wearing masks. It's been interesting in the United States. And for those of you who are in other areas of the world, and remember, we're live from everywhere, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of it. But for those of you, I'm looking at some of these comments coming through. For those of you that are in other areas of the world, I wonder what you think of us, quite honestly. I don't know how else to say it. Because it seems like we are very resistant, for whatever reason, to wearing masks and to observing some of these precautions, unlike many of our European neighbors. So I'm just curious, what's the block with wearing a mask? Is it that we just feel like we're being told what to do? Because I understand that for sure. Or is it some other reason? But I think that's something very basic that we can all do to help protect each other and also to help protect ourselves. So that's my 2 cents on masks. So just curious as to what the rest of you guys think. I have got Craig telling me that Governor Abbott closed all bars in Dallas and the surrounding counties in Dallas. He said that bars are a place where people typically go to socialize and meet. I know that that's exactly what is happening in California as well. A lot of the bars and the social hangout areas were closed as well. In fact, we had an event at our practice on Friday, and somebody came up to visit that is from Florida, and they were shocked at Georgia and how open and kind of moving around Georgia is in comparison to other states. So I think every state is kind of in a different position for sure. All right, let's see. We've got My Mindful Reset from Australia saying no one is wearing masks in Australia, although cases are increasing again in Melbourne. That's interesting as well. And the only mask wearing, you're only wearing a mask in close quarters with other strangers. Interesting to see what everybody's doing. Anyhow, so to mask or not to mask, that continues to be the question. I'm encouraging everybody to continue to wear a mask until we figure out what the hell is going on. I don't know how else to say it any more nicely. So, all right, Texas. So concerns about Texas. Let's move on to the next topic at hand. New symptoms. I mean, I think the troubling thing with COVID is that it keeps changing. The information keeps changing because we don't know that much, and we keep finding out more information every single day. So on the download, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but the CDC added 3 more COVID-19 symptoms to its official list of symptoms. Who remembers what the official list of symptoms was before? If you guys have been watching for a while, you probably got this down, right? Cough, shortness of breath, fever, fatigue. Those were some of the ones we knew for sure. Now they are slowly adding, and they didn't make a big deal about this. This actually happened back in May. Now they're also adding runny nose, diarrhea, abdominal pain to the list of possible COVID symptoms. At the end of the day, again, the information seems scary, but remember that if you are not feeling well, consult your doctor, go ahead and get the testing done. That's the only way we're going to know. But if you do get a diagnosis of COVID, and this is really what I want to talk to you about, if you do get a diagnosis of COVID-19, and we've been testing those in the practice as well, it is not a death sentence. I think that so many people get that positive result and they think that it's all over for them. I know this happened, to somebody we know, through the practice as well, that they felt like everything was over and done with and they were going to be sick forever. It's simply not true. COVID-19 is a virus. It is an aggressive virus. It is a virus that replicates incredibly quickly, but it does not need to be anything more than a virus. If, and here's the big if, those of you who've been watching me for a while are probably sick of me saying this, but the big if is that if you are protecting your immune system, if you are taking care of your overall health, and if you're kind of observing the fundamentals, and the fundamentals, remember, are what is your digestive health doing? Where is your stress level and how are you managing that? Are you sleeping consistently? Are you getting in the nutrients for good immune function? And then most importantly, how are you sort of protecting and guarding against a very central tenet of the immune system, which is inflammation? So where are you with inflammation? Do you have inflammation or do you not? You'll continue to see these studies of different people that get COVID-19, and the common denominator, the common thread, no matter what the age is, no matter what was going on, the common thread is inflammation, that there was some level of inflammation already in their system. And that could be from weight, or it could be from a different disease, or it could be from something else they were going through, a chronic disease like asthma, hypertension, diabetes, any of these things. But that made them more vulnerable to COVID-19. So I want all of you guys to remember that if you do get a positive, it does not mean that everything is over for you. It just simply means you need to double down on taking care of yourself, your immune system, and your overall health. Now, I wasn't going to go over all the individual pieces of taking care of your immune system because I feel like we've talked about that so much on these Sunday Night Lives, but I will remind you of the resources. The resources on my website, if you go to drtaz.com, there's an immune guide. You guys can download it. That's a free resource, and it has sort of the summary of all of my immune health and immune support recommendations. So take a look at that. There's so much on there. It's just a wealth of information on there of how I think about the immune system. There's also, if you were guys having more anxiety because of everything, which all of us are, quite honestly, but if you're having more anxiety with just the changing news and everything that's going on, there's also an anxiety guide. And I feel like those are the two that are probably the most relevant right now. And then as this was happening back in March and early April, I did come out with an immune product and a formula specifically to help the immune system. And it's a combination of three of my favorite immune boosters: astragalus, which I've talked about for years, which is from the world of Chinese medicine, but helps with T-cell mediated immunity, and it helps to decrease the viral load and limit your duration of infection. It saved me, I don't know how many times. I hope it does the same for the rest of us. But it has astragalus, zinc, and vitamin C in it. It's also on my website now. It's called the Defender. So take a look at that as well. And that is something which brings us right into our next topic, which is travel again. And we talked about how I have to rearrange some of my travel plans. But what about you guys? I don't know if you're having to switch things around, but when you're headed out for travel, I want to encourage you to carry with you some of the key things you need to keep your immune system healthy. And that includes masks, of course, and it includes hand sanitizer and carrying that with you. It also includes some of these immune boosters. So astragalus, zinc, vitamin C, the Defender. There's a product called that I like a lot, but keeping all of that with you. So, and taking one of those daily, but the minute you feel bad, increasing any of those to a couple of times a day, because we know that helps T-cell mediated immunity, which in turn is going to help support your immune system. So keep that in mind if you're out there traveling. There are a ton of posts on Instagram, by the way. For those of you on Facebook and YouTube, remember you can always head over to my Instagram page as well. But we've got a post on there about how to make your own hand sanitizer, what to pack for your summer travel trip, even if it's a road trip this go round. But use all those resources to really go out there prepared and confident and strong, because we don't want to say, or we don't want to give in to fear at the end of the day, right? We want to continue to live our lives. We want to do it responsibly, and we want to do it in respect and concern to our fellow citizens. So again, those of you getting ready for travel, just remember lots of different resources, and then lots of different resources in general. All right, let me take a few questions because I'm getting a bunch, and then I'll talk to you about these other two headlines. Thoughts on reliability of COVID testing? Lots of false negatives. Yes, we are getting a lot of false negatives. I can attest to that. We are offering different types of testing in the practice at Center Spring MD, and there are many people that have had the sort of constellation of symptoms, is probably the best way to say it. And unfortunately, the testing still is coming up negative. So I do think there's some variability with testing that nobody can really help, because this is all brand new. There's testing from multiple companies, and I think every company is having that issue. Now, the one form of testing, if you think you're sick, the nasal swab is very accurate in terms of saying, yes, you're sick, or no, you're not. But the antibody testing is the one that's a little bit more debated. I've done mine. I've had other patients do theirs. When we know we've had a COVID positive patient, we are getting COVID positive antibodies. But for those of us who are sort of like, well, maybe I had it, maybe I didn't, many of those antibody tests are negative. So I don't have an official false negative antibody test number for you, but I do know that there may be a high false negative rate. And again, it's just related to how new a lot of this information is. All right, let's see what else we have. So let's see. You don't like mask. Okay, I've got somebody on Facebook here. Let's see if I can back up and get the name. Sorry, guys. Wendy. All right, no mask except in the medical setting. I don't like the fear driving mask and people avoiding everyone like we are plague carriers. I don't mind others wearing masks if they are medically compromised, but I'm noticing a lot. Oh, good point here. I'm noticing a lot of bullying from mask wearers to me and others not wearing masks. Yes, I do, to keep 6 feet distance. So that's an interesting point too, because I've noticed that as well. There's a lot of judgment. Like, you're not wearing a mask, you're wearing a mask. I can't believe that person didn't wear a mask. There's a lot of that going on. And I think that if we're not federally mandated to wear a mask, I can understand why many people don't want to wear one. My advice would be, I don't like how it looks either. I feel like we're all walking around in a sci-fi movie. That's really honestly how I feel. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like that part of it. But I do feel like if you're going into a shopping area, or you're going into like a crowded area where you may not know who's there and who's not there, I think it's almost a form of respect, more so than it is necessarily you're sick or they're sick or anything like that. And so I've come to take it not so much as someone telling me what to do, but hey, this is respectfully what I can do for my fellow citizens until we really get to the bottom of what's happening. So I would keep them. You don't have to drive around in them. I've seen you guys driving around in masks. It does look pretty scary. I've got to agree with you, Wendy, on that. You don't need to drive around in a mask. You don't need to sit in your backyard or your front yard in a mask. I think that's excessive. But when you're walking into a store or into a place of service, or I don't know what's going to happen with our places of worship, but when you're walking into those kind of scenarios, that is where you may want to wear a mask, just purely out of respect when you can. I've got another question about wearing a mask if you're going to exercise. Is it unsafe to exercise with a mask on? It's not unsafe. It's really uncomfortable. I don't know if you've tried it. I've been going to the gym and it is incredibly uncomfortable. I have trouble talking under these masks. Forget about exercising. I feel like I get really, does that happen to anybody? I feel like I get super short of breath and I start gasping for breath. I get super uncomfortable. So I don't know if that's happened to any of you, but it's very difficult to exercise with the mask on. I don't think that's realistic, quite honestly. So I think that's one case where we're going to have to probably throw the mask out. All right, so I hope that answers that question. Continue to send me your questions. I'm happy to answer them. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anything along the way. I'm going to segue to yet another topic that's bugging me. It's probably bugging many of you as well, is what about our kids, right? I refuse. I have been very clear that the children really need to go back to school. We cannot, the sort of mental health fallout of what I'm seeing from quarantine, from everything being canceled, from not having structure, not having routine, is simply not worth it. So what do? You're probably seeing a lot about, is school going to start in the fall? Is school going to not start in the fall? What's going to happen? I think it's critical for everybody to remember that many schools are truly attempting to open, but it may be a hybrid approach and the kids might have to wear a mask. So that's something to remember as well. But to calm you guys down when it comes to our kids, there are a number of studies that have been published in the last actually couple of days. One about children being more resilient against coronavirus. This is from, let's see, where did the study come from? This is right out of the University of Texas, ironically, which we were just talking about. But children are much more resilient against coronavirus. They mount a better T cell mediated immune response. We've talked about that many times as well. And so overall, the pediatric population does better when it comes to COVID-19. So keep that in mind. And then we have another article about certain states. There are 3 states that are debating whether to open school in the fall. That's Michigan, Ohio, and Illinois. I don't know if we have anybody joining us today from any of those states, but they're debating it at this moment as well and really trying to judge out what's going to happen with rates and where we're going to head there. But overall, children seem to do better with this particular virus. We did have that one small cluster in New York and one in Italy where they had a multi sort of system inflammatory sort of disorder with all of this. But again, it is isolated clusters. It is not the norm for COVID-19 as much as what we're seeing with the adults. So will kids go back in the fall? More than likely they will. They seem to do okay with it because they have better T cell mediated immunity. All right. So again, back to that word, T cell mediated immunity. So remember that is how our bodies fight off infection. And the stronger that arm of immunity is, the better off we all will be, whether or not we're older, younger, somewhere in between, the better off we will all be when it comes to fighting infection. So keep that in mind as well. All right, I have another question coming through. Is it contradicting that we are brainwashed with washing hands and masks while everybody still eats a lot of sugars? Great question. Yes, so it is, yes, when that goes back to everything we've talked about with your immune system, right? So we know the fundamentals of immune health are going to be the quality of the nutrients you eat and the food that you're eating as well. And we know that sugar weakens the immune system. So again, for in particular, talking to children, managing sugar with them, if you're a parent, can be almost impossible, especially once they kind of leave and they're on their own routine. So really watching their sugar intake, I think, is going to be a part of the secret to keeping our kids healthy if they're going to go back in school and be back into a regular routine. So yes, it is very important. And actually, it's funny that you bring that up because when this whole pandemic first hit and I was watching kind of silently what was going on to the globe, really, like with everything shutting down left and right, and it was heartbreaking. I tried to get into action. I know I've told the story before. I was like, well, what can we do? Who can we call? What can make a difference? And I remember I tried calling the State Department and I tried calling the governor's office and I tried calling so many different places being like, hey, let's try this protocol. Let's just try it on maybe 100 people and see if we have a different outcome. And the answer was it's experimental, just like our drugs and our vaccines are experimental, but that was the answer over and over again. This is experimental. This is experimental. This is experimental. So that's why I do this, right, with all of you, because I want you guys to know and get the information, which is sort of weighted kind of honestly in the middle. We want to take everything into consideration and really, truly understand it and how it's going to impact our lives. And right now, I feel like there's really not a place to turn. We've got media coverage that is so polarized. We've got information coming from everywhere, and then critical information that never sees the light of day. It boggles my mind. It's crazy. But anyhow, it's just the world we're living in. And so I think it's really important, for each of us to do our part individually, for us to educate each other, and for us to be able to move through this dual pandemic, racism and COVID-19, so we can come out on the other end, as we will, and as I know we shall, kind of in a better place, all together, united, and with a better understanding of how we all need to live and what we all need to do. And so I hear you. Yes, it is very contradictory to focus on this one thing, but unfortunately, that's where the system is with the powers that be at the moment. All right, let's see. Lots of comments from you guys tonight. I love the conversation. This is so interesting. I'm even forgetting what I was supposed to talk about, but I guess it doesn't matter. All right, Ann Taylor, you're talking about kids. Yes, they're resilient, but your child lives in we do too, a multi-generational house. But the potential of carrying the virus to his grandparents makes me nervous. I hear you. We live in a multi-generational house too. I've shared the story with you guys of my mother-in-law and her fight, right? Like with cancer and how she's actually really doing well right now. But in the multi-generational home, I understand the fear of kids going out, adults going out, and then coming back in. But again, even for them, the mental health toll of being shut in and shut out is far too great. especially for our children. I will say, especially for them. I witnessed this firsthand. I witnessed my sweet son, just his teachers reaching out to me, being like, is everything okay? Is he fine? Because he didn't have his peeps. He didn't have his community to laugh and joke around with and have a good time with as he was learning, as he was doing everything else. And so I think we're really, and in fact, there's studies on this, that the anxiety and depression, which is the fallout even from China, people that experienced the pandemic before us, is something that people like me and other providers and people in healthcare are really, really worried about. We are worried about what this means for our children more than anything else, because they are losing educational time, they are losing socialization, they lost their spring, they're losing their summer. And so something has to change and give, and we're going to have to accept the fact that we have to get out there. If you're in a multi-generational home, then I think you create safe zones for those older, maybe the elderly, or those who may have chronic illness in your family, and they are isolated to a certain extent rather than isolating the rest of the family. Maybe there's a place in the home where they're kind of confined to for a certain period of time, and you work on the immune system of the entire family, not just of one member of the family, but for everyone. Everyone should be on things like astragalus and the defender, and all these things that we talk about all the time. Everybody should be washing their hands and wearing a mask. So remember, it is whether we're talking a family or we're talking a community, this is a collective effort. This is a joint effort between all of us to truly make a difference in this particular virus, but at the same time to still live our lives. And we need that balanced approach to be able to move forward. So that's what I'm thinking there. Okay, I've got someone from Florida talking about cases rocketing in Florida. I know, trust me, I know. We were just having an issue with that as well. So I know cases are skyrocketing in Florida. Again, I think that it's so hard to understand if it's the testing numbers that are going up or they're truly issues with critical cases going up. So that's one that I think needs to be sorted out. And I think that we're going to see that. And part of me, sorry about this, part of me, I was just wondering how much the protests play into this, right? I mean, I think I understand the anger that came out in the streets. I get it. Trust me. We've talked about that over the last few weeks. But a part of me is like, the timing is rather odd, right? We're almost 2 weeks out from all the heavy duty protests, and now we're seeing this incredible rise in caseload. So I don't know. I don't know if the two are related or not, but that's where we are in this country, and that's what we have to deal with. And that's how we have to move forward. Arlie, you're saying you hate astragalus. Try the Defender. It has astragalus in it, but it's in a pill form, so you don't have to do, I always used to recommend that dropper, right? So now you don't have to do the dropper anymore. So you can try the pill form. And again, that's on my website. All right, let's see what else we've got. T-cell mediated immunity is easily boosted by a cold shower. Now, that I'm not so sure about, but we do know that body temperature and stability of body temperature plays into immunity. Your immune system is made up of so many different factors, tons of different factors. So it's putting all those pieces together that ultimately improve T-cell mediated immunity. Okay. And again, I talk about that in that immune guide that you guys can download as well. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss any questions. All right, doctor, don't you think the majority of the Western population is lacking daily cardio and resistance exercise? This is also fundamental for a good immune system. Absolutely. I think we're a sedentary population. And guess what? Being sedentary means, it means more weight gain. That's a separate COVID issue that we'll talk about at another time. But it means more weight gain, and weight gain triggers inflammation. And so unfortunately, it's not just the West. I think it's happening across the world. I do think certain cities are set up to be a little bit more mobile, perhaps, so they do better with it. But yes, anytime we become sedentary, there is a tendency to, again, the second buzzword, inflammation, which can very much affect how our immune system works. So keep that in mind as well. All right, let's see. And then again, just this is always fun for me. We've got folks in London. We've got folks in Africa. We have people in Australia. We have we have a bunch of folks in India all joining in. This is a global community. Thank you guys so much for joining in today. Let me know if you have any other questions. The time has flown by. I did not mean for it to go this quickly. We'll jump on again and we'll talk about things like weight gain during COVID. How many people gained weight? I know I gained weight for sure. I was sort of polling. It was interesting. I was polling recently, like the average, like just from talking to patients and friends and stuff like that. It looks like the average weight gain across the board is about 7 pounds. So that's another reason we can't shut down. So I'm just teasing, of course, but that's definitely been a fallout from COVID as well. And then we'll talk about other things like picking sunscreen and all that other good stuff. All right, let me take one more question. Too much zinc harmful? Yes, it can be. You can lose your taste and your sense of smell if you overdo the zinc. So you want to keep it around 15 to 20 milligrams a day. And Craig, you're talking again about Dallas. Do you guys know I was born in Tyler, Texas, by the way? So I'm actually Texan by origin. But anyhow, in Dallas, Texas, all business and employees must wear a mask or face a fine, right? And anyone entering a place of business must wear a mask. Otherwise, you're not allowed to enter. It's mandatory. That's what many places are going to, because they've picked up this. I have to say, guys, I don't know if I'm embarrassed or a little surprised, this American resistance towards wearing a mask. All right. So for me, wear your mask. I think it'll help you. Take care of your immune system. Watch your health. Monitor for inflammation. Use all these great resources. Go to drtaz.com, join the tribe, use the resources. There's an immunity guide, an anxiety guide, a weight loss guide. There's all this great stuff there. And again, the Defender just recently launched. It's a new product with astragalus, zinc, and vitamin C. Use that to help protect you as we head into the season ahead. All right, let's see. I've got one more comment. I've got to get to this one because I feel this way too. Wendy, I wish the information was less polarized politically. I agree. I have a doctor and nurse educator in my immediate family, and both of them feel the death rate matches the virus of the flu and previous years. Most of us are shocked. And knowing 400 people die a day in our local city from various means. Going up to visit the COVID floor in the hospital, the nurses are saying, I wish they would talk to us. The sick aren't surprising. They're already dealing with underlying symptoms. Got to say, I agree with you, Wendy. The death rate matches the flu. It is very close to the flu. The media is not telling us that story. And that is propagating fear. And fear propagates destruction of a society, of a family, and a community. So, guys, when you're listening to the news, I encourage you and I urge you to understand that it is completely polarized and the truth is somewhere in the middle. And all the show and all the pomp and all the different news stations may not be delivering the whole story. So again, that's why we come here every Sunday night and sometimes more often to really break it down. I try to do it, whenever I see some of these headlines just coming at us like a barrel. But again, I'll stay on top of it. You guys should as well. Help educate your community. Help educate somebody you know. But it's so important to take care of our health in this scenario. If there's one or two gifts that have come out of COVID and have come out of this pandemic, and there are many gifts that have come out of the whole thing. But one would be, we're all connected, right? This is now, I've just told you all the places so many of you are from. We are all so connected in this fight. And I think that the second is understanding so many systems need to change, so many processes need to change. And the final is the authenticity within each of us to face the mirror against ourselves and measure ourselves against what's happening and understand our contribution to it all. And that's our contribution, whether it's medicine, and that's our contribution, whether it's racism, and that's our contribution in so many different arenas of our lives. So no matter how you feel about all these different issues, think about yourself and your health, turn inwards, but then turn outwards and see what you can do to make a difference in this dual pandemic. All right, you're probably tired of me talking. I'm going to jump off. I hope you guys have an incredible Sunday night and a week ahead. If you're traveling, be safe and be careful. Again, there's a travel video posted as well, both on Instagram and YouTube, so check that out. And stay healthy, stay well, stay superpowered, and I will talk to you guys soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.